Okay, so today we're going to turn a room into a pinhole camera. Okay, stuff you'll need: a roll of tape, something to measure stuff with, so a ruler is useful for cutting things, and the tape measure for measuring the room. I'm using a craft knife, you could use scissors, and something to make the hole with. So that'll be, for me, drill bits because I know the width of those. You also need the card to cover the window. First thing we'll need to do is measure the window. So next job, we need to measure, mark up and then cut our cardboard to fit the size of the window. So you might need to tape some pieces together to cover the whole window. If you do that, just make sure before you attach it to the window that the gaps are light tight. They're not going to let any leaks in. Okay, for the next bit you'll need to go to a website called mrpinhole.com. That's Mr. So mrpinhole.com. In the top left, the box that says focal length, you need to put the distance between your window and whatever you're going to be projecting the image onto, so the back wall of this room for instance. So mine is 4 meters. I'm going to put 4,000 millimeters in that box. When I hit enter, that should give us an optimal diameter on the right hand side. So it says 2.67 millimeters. Now I'm going to give a 2.5 millimeter drill bit a go at first, just to see how that works. If I need to, I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so the next step, we're going to then put our hole in the cardboard, and that will be our pinhole. So next we need to find the middle of the piece that's going to have the hole in it. So to do that, I'm putting my tape measure at one corner all the way down to the opposite corner, and then that will give me a rough idea of the middle when I mark on both directions. So one line down there and another one on the other side. Like so. Now, because on the panel that I'm going to put this over, there's some blinds, I might offset it a little bit to this side here. So it doesn't matter exactly where it goes, but fairly central is probably a good idea. So I've got my little arrow here where I'm going to put the pinhole. I'm going to use this drill bit. If you don't have a drill bit, you could measure the width that your hole needs to be with your ruler, approximately, and then push a pencil through the cardboard, or maybe use a pin and just dot around in a circle to make your hole. So I'm going to put my pinhole in there now. So that should be roughly the right size, 2.5 for the room that I'm in. Okay, on to the next bit. So we're nearly there now. The last bit is to just tape it over the window. I'm using duct tape, that should work pretty well. If you don't have duct tape, you might be able to get away with electrical tape, just anything that doesn't let light through. So to start with, I'm going to just take a little bit off the rope, and then we're going to get our first piece roughly in position, tape it up. So this is just to get it where it needs to go. If your window frames are wooden, just be careful that the tape doesn't pull the paint off the frame itself. I'm sure if you live with parents, that will be a little bit of an awkward situation. Okay, so I'm going to just tape up all the way around the gaps now. Make sure that there's no light leaking in, and that should black out that side. When I've done that, I'm going to put the other one on and we'll take a look at the result. So you can see that I've got my window all blocked out now with the cardboard. It's not perfect, there are a few little leaks, but as long as we're not using things like black and white photo paper in here, it doesn't really matter. So the picture from the 2.5mm pinhole is really quite faint. Now Mr. Pinhole said that that was the best one, and in terms of sharpness that's probably right. The bigger the hole, the softer it gets, but in order to see it we have to use a digital camera and take a long exposure photograph. So I've used about 30-second exposure to see what's projected across the room. So because I want to see it with my eyes rather than using the digital camera, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bit of tape over this one, and then I'm going to make a slightly bigger hole, maybe double or quadruple the size, just above it, and see if I can see that image any brighter. Alright, just to show you, I've made a couple more holes and I've covered the smaller ones with tape, and now we're on to a 10mm hole for a 4 metre long room. Let's switch out the lights and see what we can get. Hopefully I'll be able to show you on video. This is what we've got from our 10mm hole in the cardboard going across a 4 metre long room. We can easily see the image with our naked eye. It's brought the outside, inside, upside down, which is kind of cool thinking about it. So it's now a lot brighter. That's really good. If you wanted to make it even brighter still, you could try an even bigger hole. Now again, that will make your picture softer. You could try cutting a big hole and then putting a lens over that. Now the drawback to that one is how big the picture will depend on the lens. So you could put a camera lens over the hole, you could put a magnifying glass lens or an old pair of glasses over the hole, just make the hole big enough to cover that area. And then you can hold a piece of paper or something behind it just so that the image projects onto there. So there are a few different ideas for moving forward. So yeah, with the pinhole it'll cover most of the back wall hopefully, and certainly in here I can see my garden is on my ceiling. Okay, one last clip to show you. This time we've got a hole that's about 22mm, so it's letting in bucket loads of light, and even just looking at it with our naked eyes we can sort of see some details. So in the distance there you can see some houses across the way, you can see the trees, the outline of those, and the sky's a really bright sort of blue colour. Now obviously, like I've said a few times before, the bigger the hole the softer the picture. So at the minute it's not super duper sharp, but if you want to be able to stand inside a camera and see what's coming in from outside, this is quite a cool way of doing it. Okay. Right then, I think that's it. Job's a good one.